First off, obviously, it was a tough year. I think that in watching the team, the last 4, 5, 6 weeks when we were way behind, I thought the team played hard right till the finish line. The power play improved dramatically since the middle of February. So my thoughts is right now that Jeff should come back. As for what he's going to do with the staff, obviously last year we made a decision and made a change. I haven't had an opportunity to really sit down and talk to Jeff about his thoughts, so I'll do that here in the next couple of weeks. I'm going over to Slovakia to the World Under-18s on Friday, so I'll be gone for a week, and then when I get back, I'll probably start meeting with some of these people. Greg?
Ken, you've got a lot going on with a lot of draft choices, the NHL entry draft. Are you expecting sort of significant movement? You've told us you're going to be by the phone. You've told us you're planning on some movement. But could this really take the kind of shape where there's going to be a lot of movement of players in and out this summer?
So you're talking like trades, not
I'm talking,
using these draft picks to acquire players? Is that what you're being
Yeah,
here?
sorry, I should have been clear, Ken.
Yeah.
Mostly trades, moving guys around, moving up in the draft with some of the picks you've got, that kind of thing. Do you expect a lot to go on?
We'll see. I can't. I don't have the answer to that until we work the phones. Obviously, there's an expansion draft the Saturday before the draft. We all have to submit our protected list. I anticipate that I'll be on the phone a lot the week or two leading up to submitting a list of players. So certainly we know, Greg, my message in there to the players was we got to get better. You guys have been here. I was here last year. My goal is that we qualify for the playoffs next year. We got a bunch of goals, but that's one of the goals. This weekend when I, watched the games here against Montreal and New Jersey, and I said to Ryan Martin, I think he just came in here, my assistant manager, halfway through the second period. It was a reminder what incredible fans we've got. We get the best fans in the world. They're passionate. They're incredible. They're not only in Detroit, they're in Michigan, they're all over the United States. They want to see us in the playoffs. Starting tomorrow night is the most fun time of the year, most exciting time of the year, and we're not involved, and it's incredibly disappointing. We got to get better. At the same time, I'm going to come to your draft picks. At the trade deadline, I made a decision that it was an opportunity for this organization to get some extra picks, some extra swings at young players. We have 20 picks over the next 2 years, and I'm hoping that with these extra picks, that we're going to have a number of these picks are going to turn out to be players down the road. They're not the answer in the short term, but you got to start the process at some point in time, and so yeah, I'll be working the phones. We're looking to improve the team. Part of the improvement of the team has to be internally. I think that we had a number of players in that room that have more to give. And over the next week or two, as I'm meeting with the players, as I'm meeting with Jeff Blashill, as we're having organization meetings, we have to figure out which of the players are a part of the solution and where we need to upgrade.
Ken, over the last couple of years, a lot of the players have regressed. Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot of the players have regressed over the last couple of years. How much of that is on the coaching? And can you just speak to what gives you the confidence going forward that Jeff's the right man to lead the team?
Well, like I said, first off, I thought our players played hard, right up till the end of the season. Nobody mailed it in. I think it speaks to the leadership of Jeff. I think it speaks to the leadership of Henrik Zetterberg. Jeff became a coach in the National Hockey League because at every other level he won championships. He was named the American League Coach of the Year one year when all our players were called up. And lots of players under his watch at the American League level improved. They got better, and they ended up in Detroit. Certainly, and he and I have talked, a number of players either regressed or had off years. We have to figure out why they regressed or why they had off years. I think anything you do in life, when you get a job, when you've been on the job for 2 years and you've got some experience, when you look around the National Hockey League and people get opportunities, whether it's at a manager, whether you're a young player, whether you're a coach, and if things don't work out and you go to another opportunity, lots of times you're more successful the next go-around than you are the first. Why? It's experience. And I think that in Jeff's case, he's got 2 years of experience. He was a very good coach when we hired him. I think that he's more experienced now. I thought that our team played hard till the end. He understands, I understand, the players understand. We got to get better. We got to figure out ways to maximize whatever potential that we've got. I don't know if that answers your question, but my feeling as a general manager, as a person, is, you need to believe in something. You got to believe in people. I believe in Jeff Blashill. I believe in him because of his resume before he got here. I work with him every day. I know he works at it. He's talking to people. He's gathering information. He's trying to get better. He worked his way up from Western Michigan to Grand Rapids. We go to the first year he's coaching us at the rookie tournament in Traverse City. It's the first time that we've ever won the championship of the Traverse City tournament. Now, it's only a 4-game tournament, but I don't know, he somehow found a way to get that team to win that tournament. So he's had success at every level. He won a Calder Cup championship. They went on playoff runs every year. The one year they had 99 points. All our players were up here. I think it was the Olympic year. He was named the Coach of the Year at the American Hockey League level. We got into the playoffs last year with 93 points. This year was very disappointing, unacceptable. We got to be better. He knows it. I know it. I know the players know it. Hopefully that's answered your question. I think he's got two. I think he's a very good coach. He's had a great resume at every other level. He's been in the league for 2 years. We missed the playoffs. We got to be better. He's got to be better. I've got to be better. We've got to be better. But I believe in him. I believe in his resume.
Ken, similarly to that, Chris Ilitch believes in you. Today he told some of the beat writers that 100% confidence in you. What's that relationship been like since, I guess, Mike has passed and your and Chris's relationship?
With Chris? Well, I've worked a lot with Chris. I go to monthly meetings. There's a number of people. Chris has been there. Obviously, I've worked with Chris a lot through the last number of years. Obviously, very close once with the District Detroit, and certainly he's been the person that's overseen that and was in lots of meetings as to the rink and design of the rink and our locker room and suites. So I've worked with Chris on a lot of different things. Oh, the product on the ice? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Chris and Mrs. Ilitch that are obviously Mr. and Mrs. Ilitch obviously bought the team. Chris has been on the job for about 15 years. He's been on the job a long time, working on an everyday basis, not on the ice. I always reported to Mr. Ilitch and Mrs. Ilitch. Certainly now I'll report to Mrs. Ilitch and Chris.
Ken, you talk about the need to get better, and you talk about how you thought there were guys that had more to give. How much of the growth that this team needs to make do you think can come from within?
Well, first off, a lot of it has to come from within. For those of you, Bob, you cover the National Hockey League on an everyday basis. How often are there blockbuster trades? The teams that get good, they get progressively good. And then, you know, July 1st free agency is an opportunity to add a player. You know, when you just go back to July 1st last year and look at the players that were signed, they're all getting 6- and 7-year contracts. You know, so how many of those can you add? You can really add one. We added one. It was Frans Nielsen. We wanted a center iceman. You got to draft, you got to develop. That's how the Red Wings became the Red Wings in the late 80s and early 90s. It wasn't through free agency. It was through drafting and developing. Now, it was a different set of rules. And, you know, in the 89 draft, when you got Lidstrom in the 3rd round and Fedorov in the 4th round, everybody knew Fedorov was a great player, but he was played in communist Russia, and you didn't know if you'd ever get him. We used the draft pick to get him. As you go back, as those group of players started to run their, you know, get near the end of their careers, the scouts that we had ended up in late 90s, early 2000, found the Zetterbergs and the Datsuks and the Kronwalds and, I don't know, Howards, Philpolas, Fransons, Ericssons, you know, all those players. And then you go out, and Brian Rafalski came here. He wanted to come here, and you pieced together, and we went through a run in 2007, 2008, 2009. You know, so we have to get better internally. You know, that's what I was saying to the team in there. There's 16 teams in the Eastern Conference. 16. Do you know how many teams have made it 2 years in a row? 3. Pittsburgh, Washington, and the Rangers. Now, Pittsburgh's made it a bunch of times. Washington's made it a bunch of. 3 teams have made the playoffs in the Eastern Conference 2 years in a row. 3. The other 13 either haven't made it, or they've made it last year and made it this year. 5 teams that were in the playoffs in the East last year are out. We're out. Tampa's out. Florida's out. Islanders are out, and Philly's out. 5 teams that were out last year were in. We want to be one of the teams that's out this year that gets back in. Now, I said those guys, these other 8 teams that are out, they're having the same meetings that we are here this year. They're today or yesterday when they have their meetings, they're talking about how they got to get better. They want to get in. They want to get in the playoffs. So it speaks to, we haven't had expansion for 15 years. You know, I think it was 2000, the last time expansion. There's no expansion teams in the National Hockey League. All 16 teams are established teams with a foundation, with a base. They've got young players. They're trying to do the same thing that we're trying to do. Make the playoffs, get in the playoffs, go on a playoff run, and eventually win the Stanley Cup. So how are we going to get better? First off, we got to find a way to maximize each individual player. We've got to figure out a way to maximize the group. You know, I said in there, you know, why do you go from, you know, he was going to text me, but why do you go from the 19th of October to the 12th of January without a road power play goal? And so, I don't know, someone was going to text me, but I know that we had from the 18th of February up until like a week ago, we had the 9th best power play in the National Hockey League. Why is that? That 3 months affected our place in the standings, you know? So we got to find a way to get 10 more wins. We need 20 more points. That's a lot of wins. That's a lot of points. So it's about, I've got to be better. Jeff Blashill knows he and the coaches have got to be better. Each one of those players know that they got to be better. These fans want to watch playoff hockey. When I watch this on this weekend, the emotion, the passion, and Stoney's sitting up here, and Stoney and I have talked at point in time. Nobody wants to see a rebuild. They want to see you make the playoffs. They want to see you be competitive. They want to think they got a chance to win the Stanley Cup. While we're trying to draft and develop and get better, long-term, our short-term goal, one of our short-term goals, is to try to figure out how do we make the team as good as it can be and hope that that team can qualify for the playoffs. Let some of these young kids that we got here play in the playoffs. Hopefully then when you get in, like, I don't know, you guys are going to sit here and all these experts are going to say, here's the 8 playoff series, and this team's going to beat that team, and this team's going to beat that team, and lots of times you're going to be right, but there has a chance for an upset. When you're in a playoff series in hockey, there's a chance that 8 beats 1 or 7 beats 2, and you can go on a playoff run. So our goal is to get our players here better. Why did some of these guys regress? Why did some of these guys come off? Why did the power play not produce for 3 months? You know, why were we one of the teams that had the most man games lost to injury? Can we get people back quicker? I've got to spend the next month talking to all my people and figuring out how can we be better. Each one of us be better. I've got to be better.
Hey, Ken, back here.
Yep.
You mentioned Stoney up there, and there are a lot of fans that want the so-called tank and want the rebuild. I know, obviously, you just said that's not what you want to do, but like, how much better can you get through, whether it be the expansion draft and losing guys or trades? I know you guys are kind of up against the cap. How much better can you get in 1 year, do you think, to kind of get back to the postseason?
Well, my goal is to make the playoffs. We got to try to figure out a way to get 20 points, 18 points, right? Looks like 95 points thereabouts qualifies for the playoffs. What do we have, 77? So I'm not even, but we got to get, we need 8, 9, 10 more wins. First off, for those people that believe tanking, look at the other 29 teams in the league, and you can look at a team or two that's had a run of bad luck, and they've come out on the other side, and it's pretty rosy. But there's teams that are out 6, 8 years in the playoffs, and you decide where they are in the building. When you're dealing with 18-year-old players and you're dealing with a lottery draft, there are no guarantees. And sometimes the player in the fourth, you know, as I'm watching out there the other night, Thomas Holmstrom was selected by the Detroit Red Wings in the 11th round. Played 1,000 games. If he went back in that draft, do you think he'd go in the 11th round? I don't. And there's players that go in the first round of the draft, they don't play. It's not an exact science. If it was an exact science, the first player that was selected would be the best player, the second player that's selected would be the second best player, the third player that was selected would be the third best player. You can go through the 08 draft, the 09 draft, the 010 draft, the 11 draft, and they're all over the boards. And there's fourth round players. Zetterberg and Datsuk were 6th and 7th round picks. As the manager here, when we had Zetterberg and Datsuk, I was spending futures to try to win. I knew there was a price to pay. You can't have it both ways. When you think you got a chance to go on a playoff run, you're spending futures. You know, Chris Chelios was 3 first-round draft picks. He was Anders Eriksson and 2 additional first-round draft picks. I'd do that deal all over again. But there's a price to pay. 1 or 2 of those picks turn out to be real players. You're trying to win. You're trying to win. You're trying to win. I made a decision a couple of years ago. Pav was healthy and Z was healthy. The team was playing good. That I traded a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick and a young player to acquire Cole and Zidlicki. I would do it all over again today. You only get so many opportunities in sports. There's a price to pay. So now, last year, or a month ago, 2 months ago at the trade deadline, I made a decision that those draft picks that we had been spending in the past was now a time to get those draft picks back. But those draft picks that we acquired, we got 20 in the next 2 years, I'm hoping that we pick some players that impact this franchise 3, 4, 5 years in a row. Maybe you can, the first-round pick this year is you know, we have the 7th odds going into the lottery, and hopefully you pick a good player. But there is no guarantees. I think people that think we're going to tank, they think there's a guarantee. Look at how many teams have gone, how long they've gone without winning the Stanley Cup. There's teams in the league that have never won the Stanley Cup. Good programs, great programs, great programs. There are no guarantees you're going to win the Stanley Cup. There are no guarantees that you're going to come out on the other side with a powerhouse, super elite team. And if you do get an elite team, you're going to get it for a period of time, and then the cap is going to come into play. And you're going to have to decide which players you want to keep and which players you want to trade away. We had that in 09. We had a powerful team in 09. Hossa went to Chicago, Samuelson went to Vancouver, Hoodler went to Europe, and the cap started pecking away. So there is no guarantees. There is no guarantees. I don't want to sit up here. You have the 30 best managers in the world in this league, the 30 best coaches in the world in this league. You've got the best players in the world in this league. You've got the 30 best scouting staffs in the world. Everybody wants to win. Everybody's got an attention to detail. Interviewing young players. I said to Håkan Andersson, who's our chief European scout and has his fingerprints on a lot of these great European players that we've drafted over the last 10 or 15 years. We were just talking about European scouting. He was saying, Ken, every team used to have one scout in Europe. Every team now has 4, 5, 6 scouts in Europe. They're all over the place. You know, when you have success and other teams have success doing, you copy. And we were one of the teams that had a lot of success in Europe. If you're in the league, you're not going to sit over here and not send somebody to Europe. You're going to send people to Europe. There's a fishing hole over there that you want to go fish at. So these scouting staffs are all over the place. So there is no guarantees that you can just tank and wake up. What if you tank and it doesn't work? Like, what if you tank and you turn out to be middling in 6, 7, 8, 9 years? Then what? So at the end of the day, I think that we've got lots of good pros. Some had good years. Some had really good years. Lots of them had years where I think they got more to give. And those players that got more to give, they're going to hear it in one-on-one meetings. And they need to have an important summer. They got to hit the gym. They got to get stronger, especially in the case of some young players. And I don't believe in entitlement. I don't believe in handing people jobs. My message in there, if you're a young player, you got to take somebody's job. Henrik Zetterberg just finished 25th in the league in scoring, plus 15. He had a fabulous year. He's not ready to come to training camp next year and to slide over to the side and let some say, oh, I'm only going to play 14 minutes so some young player can play 20. Let's give him a chance. He wants those minutes. He's competitive. That's how he's carved out 1,000 games and 900 points, and he won the Stanley Cup, and he's carved out the career that he's had. So I told these guys a story. In 1982, 83, I was a minor league goalie. And I actually saw him the other day. Paul Fricker, played at University of Michigan. Was an All-American. I was a minor league goaltender. And I played about 6 years of pro. We had a son, Brad, and my wife was pregnant with a second child who turned out to be a daughter. We're on the bus one day. We're bussing along, and there's no cell phones. There's no internet. You know, the communication, it's the early 80s. Isn't like it is today. And the hockey news comes out, and as you're on a bus, you know, everyone's grabbing for the hockey news, and we're the Hartford Whaler organization. And Hartford Whalers, Paul Fricker, goalie of the future of the Hartford Whalers. Nice article. And, you know, Frick and I got along good. He was 20 years old. I was 27, 26. And he said, if I'm the goalie of the future, why am I not in Hartford? I said, Frick, because you're not good enough. Well, if I'm the goalie of the future, why am I not the #1 goalie in Binghamton? I said, because you're not better than me. And if you can't take my job, you can't take John Garrett's job, who's in Hartford. You got to take people's jobs. This is a competition. So the young people in there, I know that there's some people think, oh, they're good young, just hand them the job. Just give them the ice time, hand them the job. What's to challenge them? What's to make them better? You need to have a conscience in that locker room. The coach can only do so much. The conscience is the guys that wear letters and that have stock in the company. They've been around a while. They're the conscience. They're the role models. They are the people that are showing the young players in our organization how to go about being a pro, how to handle adversity, how to practice, how to chip it in, how to chip it out, how to be a pro. And I don't care what job you're in, whether you're a young person, there's a couple young people sitting in here, you need role models. You need people to look up to. You need people to take you under your arm and show you how to do. You just don't all of a sudden get the job and all of a sudden, you know, you're a writer, you know, you're 20 years old. Go write a story about the Detroit Red Wings. Well, who do I talk to? You got no stock. You got no stock. You build it up. This is no different than hockey. We happen to be on TV every day and we're in the paper. But they're still people. They're human beings. They're young people, and lots of these people are 20, 21 years of age. They're still finding their way. So we need a veteran group. I think we've got a veteran group of players that are great role models. We've got some young players that provide hope, and they've got potential. We've got to challenge them, educate them, push them to be the best that they can be so that when they get there and they're 25 and 26, they're going to educate the next generation of Red Wings. Not that all of a sudden they're a draft pick and they've had a nice junior career and they had a pretty good half a year in the American Hockey League. Go run the power play in Detroit. What if they're not ready for it? And as you guys were going down the stretch the last month, and our team was out of the playoffs, how'd you like to be a 21-year-old kid, 22-year-old kid with all those mics, and you got to answer for the organization? That's Henrik Zetterberg's responsibility, Nick Cronwell's responsibility, Justin Abdelkader's responsibility, the veterans' responsibility. They take the focus so that those young players can just worry about being pros. How do I practice? How do I get better? How do I get my ice time? How do I go to the gym? Look what Yzerman's doing. Look what Abdelkader's doing. Look what Yzerman, look what Datsuk's doing. Look what Larionov's doing. That's how these veteran players here, look what Maltby's doing. Look what Draper's doing. They're role models. They're good pros. So we've got to get better. Everybody in that room's got to get better. I got to manage better. The coach knows, he and the staff, we've got to figure out ways to get the most out of the team. We want to make the playoffs. Our fans want to be in the playoffs. We get the best fans in the world. They want to watch playoff hockey. We got to be better. We're not going from here to there in 2 or 3 months. We got to work our way slowly up the ladder. And we got Zetterberg in the 7th round or 6th round. We got Datsuk in the 7th round or 6th round. We got Francis in the 3rd round. We got Holmstrom. We've got some players coming. Sarjärvi in the 3rd round was a good player on the Finland team. I just watched him the other night. Played real good for Mississauga in a playoff game. Can he have impact on the Detroit Red Wings 3 years from now? Philip Hronek was the 2nd round pick, was the captain of the Czech World Junior team, had a great year up in Saginaw. Can he have impact on the Detroit Red Wings down the road? I don't know. We got to educate him. We got to give him direction. We got to give him role models. We got to challenge him. We got to give him mentors. And at some point in time, believe that some of these people are going to push their way through the system and have an impact on the success of the Detroit Red Wings. Answer your question? Okay. Greg. Oh. Is there any way that I can risk? Well, yeah, you have to. Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm going to explore all the options. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, when we submit our list, we're going to submit a list of 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie. Okay, we're not doing 8 and 1. We're going to go 7, 3, and 1. We're going to expose some players. Prior to that draft, those players that I know we're going to expose or think we might expose, and even ones that we might protect, if there's trading possibilities out there to make us better, we're going to try to make it happen.
Ken, you talked about your faith in the younger players, but some younger players regress. Do you have to look at the young guys closely, and even in the middle-level guys, and wonder if it's time to shuffle the deck a little bit with some of the young guys, assuming you don't necessarily know if they'll keep progressing?
Yeah. Now, in order to shuffle the deck, you got to have a partner, right? So, would I like to shuffle the deck? Would I like to make some changes? Yeah, I would. Beyond bringing young people onto our team, yes, I would.
Ken, you mentioned a few times you got to get better too. How do you get better? I mean, what's the self-evaluation as you look at these last few years and missing the playoffs this year?
My responsibility, obviously, is I report to ownership, and everybody in the organization works for me. So I've got to make sure that everything that goes on in the organization is the best it can be. And if it's not the best it can be, ultimately it's my responsibility. If it's somebody in the organization, you can say it's their responsibility, but it's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to make sure that we, to oversee, to make sure the coaches, the players, the scouts, the trainers, the doctors, everybody is doing the best job they can do. When it comes to me, obviously, I make the final decisions when it comes to every decision that goes on. So I got to make sure that every decision that is made, this isn't a perfect business. You're not always going to make, every decision you make isn't going to be a right decision. It's impossible. I got to make sure that we make more right decisions than wrong decisions. How do I go about that? I think I got to go about that every day here over the next 3 or 4 months, and make sure that when it's time to make a decision, that there's nothing out there that you make a decision and you find out after the fact that you didn't know something, or I got to be more on top of everything that goes on.